Hi, Santa here. Well, okay, just kidding about the Santa part, but I did borrow his hat. I am recording this in the midst of the holidays. Hanukkah very recently ended, and Christmas is right around the corner, followed in rapid succession by Kwanzaa. And of course, the winter solstice is in there in just a few days, and there's just so much going on. Plenty of things to celebrate. And whatever you celebrate, I'm sending my very best holiday wishes to you. And I thought that probably the best way, hello Bootsy, oh you're a good girl. I thought the best way to convey my holiday wishes to you would be to tell you a story that was a big part of our lives and inspires us very much, and that is the story of a puppy named Penny. This goes back a number of years. We had a dog named Derby. Derby was Boo's mother, which would make her Bootsy's grandmother, and that would make her Apple's great-grandmother. And yes, I'm talking about you, yes. Am I boring you? Derby had some really nice puppies, and she was an excellent producer in terms of the litters that she made. And one time we bred her. She was due to deliver the puppies in January. And when she finally started going into labor, the very same day we got a dire forecast for a huge snowstorm that was due to come in within a matter of hours. Derby had been in labor for quite some time, and she still wasn't getting the hard contractions that she would need to deliver the puppies. And we thought maybe we're going to have to do a C-section if she can't actually get those puppies out naturally. And of course, with the forecast the way it was, we were kind of afraid that by the time we realized that she needed to have a cesarean section done, we would be in the midst of a very heavy snowfall that was predicted. So we decided to be a little bit preemptive about it. When we were reasonably sure that she was having difficulty, we went to an emergency vet clinic. Snow had already started falling, and we consulted with the vet there. And we decided together that the very best course of action would be to play it safe and deliver the puppies by C-section. Now, this was a vet that we didn't know really well, so we had to wait out in the waiting room while everything was going on in the OR, and we were quite nervous about it. At one point, the vet tech came out and told us that she had 4 puppies. Yes. This many. 4 puppies. They were doing well except for one. There were 3 tricolors and 1 Blenheim. And the 1 Blenheim was a tiny little girl, barely 3 ounces in weight, which is very small for a Cavalier puppy, and that they were having trouble bringing her around. So we were kind of apprehensive about the whole thing, and we kept waiting, and I just couldn't take the sitting around waiting anymore. And I walked outside the door to see what was going on, and of course it was snowing. The parking lot was pretty much empty because not too many people wanted to venture out with the forecast that was given, and it was getting snow covered already. And as I was standing there collecting my thoughts, I saw a little glint in the snow, and I took a closer look, and as I looked at it more closely, I realized this was a penny, a coin that had apparently been dropped by someone, although nobody was around, and the penny was not covered in snow. And I thought that was kind of unusual, that it was still showing as if it had just been dropped. And I remembered the old saying, I don't know, you young folks maybe don't know this one, but I was told when I was a kid, see a penny, pick it up, all day long you'll have good luck. I picked up the penny and I put it in my pocket. Walked back inside, and there was still no word. My wife and I still waiting anxiously. And finally, the vet tech came out again and said, "We got the little girl breathing on her own. She's trying to nurse. I think she's going to make it." So after everybody was recovered from the anesthesia and all seemed to be going well, we decided not to hang around too long because the snow was piling up. So we went back home with the puppies and with Derby. Turned out to be quite a snowstorm, and this is kind of like what our house looked like after the storm was over the next day. And during the night, we stayed up with the puppies all night, and I especially was trying to get this little Blenheim girl to nurse. And all the time I was thinking about that Penny that I found in the parking lot, and I thought, what an appropriate name, because that Penny, that may not have done anything, but it seemed to have brought some good luck. So I told my wife, we are going to name this girl Penny, as long as she is well and she survives. We gave a closer examination when we saw that Penny was still having difficulty nursing, and we found out that she actually had a cleft palate. Cleft palate is an opening. In her case, it was in the back of the roof of her mouth, and because of that opening, when she would latch on and try to nurse, puppies nurse by sucking the milk kind of the same way that you and I would suck on a soda straw to get a beverage out of a container. And with that hole in the back of the roof of her mouth, she couldn't create that suction, so she was having trouble. I was determined to see it through with this girl, so I began tube feeding Penny. Tube feeding is a process where you can see a video here that I did when I was feeding her. A tube is inserted very, very carefully into the dog's stomach. And I wouldn't try this if you're not experienced at it, but I know what to do, so I put the tube down to the bottom of her stomach, and then I would slowly inject the formula that I had made up, which was a very nutritious formula and promoted growth. And it would go directly into her stomach, didn't have to worry about her sucking it in through her mouth, and she got the nutrition she needed. I had to keep doing this every few hours around the clock. And she did thrive on it. And even though she couldn't nurse properly, I was very impressed with the way Derby, her mother, was able to protect her and keep her warm and make sure that everything was okay with her. As a matter of fact, even her siblings, her brother and two sisters, the tricolors, would protect her and keep her warm in the puppy pen as well. As she got older, I had to make some little adaptations from what we would normally do. I started weaning her rather early, and I couldn't use the soft food that I normally use for weaning. I had to use hard kibble, slightly softened, but still firm enough that she could swallow it without having it jam up in that little opening in her palate. And she learned to do that very well. In time, she learned to eat the kibble out of a dish. We had to accommodate her drinking needs. She couldn't drink from a bowl very easily. So I used one of these watering bottles that's used for rabbits and other small animals. Here's a picture of her using that bottle. And that keeps the water supply above her throat so that the water would flow directly down and not through her opening in her palate. And as the puppies continued to grow and graduated into a bigger puppy pen, her siblings still took very good care of Penny, making sure that she was kept warm all the time. All these things that could happen could be very dangerous, because if liquid or soft food got into that opening, she could aspirate it, in other words, breathe it into her lungs, which could develop into an infection, could develop into pneumonia, and would be very dangerous to her health. But she grew very nicely. Here's a little video clip I did when she was about maybe 5 weeks old, with her siblings and her mother outside. You'll notice that she's not the least bit shy. She's rather outgoing, making her presence known not just to our black and tan girl Bramble, but to her mother and to her siblings. And she grew eventually into a really good-looking girl. We found a home for her with a woman who had experience with rescuing special needs animals, provided a great home for her. And all that sounds like a wonderful holiday message. But there's a footnote that I think is very important. The footnote is that after she grew up a bit, a lot earlier than what we would have wanted, we discovered that there was a heart defect that was not evident at all when she was born and when she was very young. That heart defect took her life at a rather young age. And that would seem to be a very sad thing. But I chose to look at the positive. This puppy overcame obstacles. In fact, kind of reminds me of Mulligan Man in this book that my wife wrote, Mulligan Man Finds His Purpose, available on Amazon.com, which is an inspiring story of a dog that had to overcome adversity. And Penny overcame adversity. So rather than focus on mourning her loss, which we did, and her owner did, I chose to focus more on how she flourished, how she overcame all those obstacles, and the joy that she brought into the lives of us, her owner, her mother, her siblings, the other dogs in our house. She was a part of their lives for quite some time, and we treasure those times. And there's even more meaning to that. As we sit around the table for our Christmas dinner that we'll be having in a few days, we will miss people and dogs that we've lost over the years. And of course we will mourn them, and we will be very sad about the fact that they can't be with us on this festive day. But we will also celebrate their lives. And that's what I think we should all focus on at these wonderful holiday times that we celebrate. We will mourn their loss, but we will very strongly celebrate the joy that they brought into our lives, the joy that we brought into their lives. And that's what I'm going to focus on. So, with that, I'm going to give you a merry ho ho ho, and whatever holiday you celebrate, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you celebrate the people and the dogs who are with you, and I hope you celebrate the time that you had with the people and the dogs who are not there with you on this festive day. Merry Christmas, Bootsy. Apple. Apple just wants to sleep on my lap, but Merry Christmas anyway.